Hello, everybody. Just a few minutes and we will start the session, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We will start the session now. Okay. My name is Mahmoud. I am from Diamond Age and DBVET support team. Today I will lead this workshop, okay, and I will explain how we can use the tool DBVET to integrate the developers and the IT providers software with ZATCA server. Today, the workshop will define and will explain how we can use the API and use it from the DBVAT portal to integrate with your software that will send all the information from your software to ZATCA server through this API. And we will explain all the requirements that needed to this integration to be done easily. Let's go for the slide number 2. This slide will explain that starting from January 2023, the new phase or the phase 2 of ZATCA implementation for the e-invoice, it will start for all the e-post system and the e-invoices. So in this platform, we will guide you all how to use this platform to integrate your e-post system with DBVAT, which will send all the information to ZATCA servers and return back the results, which is required by the regulations of ZATCA. Now, as we know that the phase 1 of ZATCA implementation, it's asking for the QR code, and I believe that all the IT companies and the developers, they already implement the phase 1, which is established on the 4th of December 2021. Today, starting from January 2023, the ZATCA requirement is to integrate your e-post system and your e-invoice with ZATCA servers direct to get the QR and the invoice hash and the clearance through some requirement, and I will explain it after few slides. Now, here, let me give a small example, okay? Now, we have a retail shop. This shop is named Balloon. This balloon, they purchase an EPOS system from any IT company or developer. Let's say in our example here that Diamond A, they sell a software to Balloons for all the e-invoice transactions. So the Diamond Age EPOS system, as an example, we name it ABC point of sale. Now, Balloons, as a company or as a retail shop, they are using ABC POS to issue an e-invoice to their customers, which they are coming to the shop to buy some material or products or services. So here, Diamond A, they are the software developer who have the software, and Balloons for Diamond Age, they are the customer that they are using the software and using ABC point of sale. Now, let's give a small example. This is as an example. All the IT companies and all the developers, they have their own software, which is installed in their clients. These clients, they are using their POS, okay, to issue the e-invoice. So, in this case, the retail shop, we name them as the sellers. So they are the seller who sell the services or the products, okay, to the customer. So in our case, Balloon, they are a retail shop and they are using ABC software as an example for this software, okay, to their customer to issue the e-invoice. So they are the seller. The seller will issue an invoice, and when he issue the invoice, he will click save. So in this invoice, the seller, they are entering the information of the customer and the product or the services that they are issuing to the customer in order to generate the e-invoice for them. After that, then the system will send the XML hash. When they are saving this invoice for the printout, the system must generate an XML file with a specific structure, and we will see it after few slides. We will send this XML structure to the DBVAT platform, and DBVAT platform, they will take this XML file and communicate with ZATCA server to generate and to retrieve the QR and the requirement that we discussed before one slide, which is related to the ZATCA requirement, QR, XML hash, and the clearance and the stamp and signature. So after saving the invoice means when I click save button and before the print out, the system will use dbvat.com APIs to send the XML file to ZATCA. Then the XML file will be as per the standard structure. We will see it. Now, in the same of the invoice, when I click save and save the invoice, the system will generate the XML file, which is available in our API documentation inside the portal. This XML file, it should be generated from your system, from your EPOS system as a standard structure. And this structure is already explained in the API documentation because any invoice will have a customer information and the seller who sell the products or the material, and the lines or the products. At the same time, it will have the amount or let's say financial for the invoice and the VAT information. So once we save it, the system will generate this XML as per the structure, and it will be passed to dbvat.com. After dbvat.com get this XML file, it will send the information to ZATCA server, and the server will validate the request which is coming from dbvat.com and get back the QR and the XML hash in addition to the status of the request and the stamp and signature. So after that, the system will get a response from ZATCA with the success and the requirement which we talked about it in the beginning slides. which is the QR. They generate the QR. And also the status pass, clearance pass, the status of the clear and clear. In the same time, you will get the invoice hash, which is around 600 to 700 characters. This response is coming from ZATCA server to dbvat, and dbvat will return it back to the software, okay, through the API to get all this information and save it to your invoice direct. So we need to know that regardless the type, okay, of the invoice, because we have multiple type of invoices, B2B, B2C, debit note, credit note, every single transaction from this, it have an API in our platform that you can use it to pass the structure of the invoice and pass it to ZATCA server, then it will give you the response. Now, let's go. After the clearance is coming from ZATCA server, you will be able to generate the invoice, and you can generate the QR based on the information. So balloons, they are a retail shop. They are doing sales invoices or electronic invoices. Once you issue the invoice, the system will generate the QR and the XML file to dbvat through an API. Then the API will take it to communicate with ZATCA server until it gets the response from ZATCA as per this slide. This is the status or the result which is coming from the API after submitting the invoice or the transaction or the order to the ZATCA server. I hope this is clear. Now, in general, okay, balloons in our example, they are a company, they are selling materials or products or services to customers. So when they are issuing the invoice detail, as we see in the top of the arrow, it's using API of dbvat.com. It will go to dbvat. dbvat here will do all the transaction and validation and the encryptions that required by ZATCA server, and they will send it to ZATCA through an encryption tools with all your invoice detail. And your invoice detail, as we agreed, it's coming through the XML file that generated from your system. Then ZATCA will give you back the result of your calling, okay? It will return the result to dbvat. Then from dbvat, it will give the result to Balloon. As we said, it will give the invoice hash, signature, the status, and the QR code. That this information, you need to save it in your database, in your transaction database. Here, a flow that how your EPOS system, regardless the type of EPOS system, is it desktop application or a cloud EPOS system, can connect with ZATCA through dbvat. Now, we issue the invoice from the customer, and we see here two lines, blue lines and green lines. The blue lines, it's going from the system or the EPOS system of the customer until the ZATCA server. When I'm saying here the seller to the ZATCA, and the green line will return back. So in this case, okay, the seller will issue an invoice, then it will generate the XML file to the second column, which is API of dbvat. It will connect all the information and collect it from this EPOS software, and it will take this information to send it to dbvat hub. dbvat hub will validate all the information which is coming through your XML file. If the validation is success, then the request will go through the encryption tool to the ZATCA server. After the response from ZATCA server, it will go back to the dbvat hub again and give the information which we requested from ZATCA, QR, clearance, and the XML hash and the signature. Then dbvat hub, it will return the results to the API, and the API as well, he will return this information to the seller invoice. That time, the developer or the IT company, they need to manage this information and save it direct to your database sales system. Now, give you an explanation about DBVAT. The platform is very simple and it's easy to use. Now, number one, you need to sign in dbvat.com and you will have a trial time that you can test and use this platform to connect your software with your e-invoice system. In this case, once you create the account, the system will generate two things, which is important for everyone who need to understand how this will work. The most important thing that when you create an account and sign up, you are an IT or developer or an IT company that who have a software, you need to link your customers. Suppose that you sell your software to 10 customers. For you, it's a customer, but we will name it for 10 sellers that they are selling a material or product or services to others. Then you need to know that in the client side, you will add your seller information. If I have 10 sellers or 10 customers, I need to create 10 accounts. Why? Because each customer or each seller, he will have his own authentication code or secret key that will be generated from ZATCA portal, that it should be linked with your VAT registration number. After that, you will go to the credentials to take it and you will connect this all through the API. Now, after you sign up, you will go to the credentials. You will take the authentication number from the credential to link it with your DBVAT. Remember, here the secret key in the credential size, if you are using the API to create a clients from the API, because you have two ways of creation the client or the sellers. You can use it from the API direct or you can use it from the platform itself. So the secret key, which is available in the credential side, and this is already explained in the technical documentation, and I will show it to you. You will use the secret key, which is existing in the credentials, to create the clients. Other than this, you don't need this secret key. Now, after I take the authentication key and I will go to the customer record account, there is a secret key for each client. You can use it to make any API calling, and we make classification of the API. The first thing, you need to use the Postman as an example to update all the variables related to the authentication key and the secret key, which is related to the customer or the seller. After you update these variables, okay, by the slide 2, you need to go to edit. Then you need to go to change the secret key and the authentication key for this ZATCA phase. Then you need to save it, and in this time you will be ready to make any calling API to integrate your transaction, invoice, debit note or credit note with your system. Now, if I go the customer information, which is required, this customer information is the seller information as per the format. How we can create it using the API, we need to submit this format, which is already exists in our portal, that you can copy and paste and use the API to create the client. You will put the name, the registration number, the CR, the address, the title, the type of this customer. This option, you can use it from two ways. You can use it from the portal direct or you can use it from the API, and I will show you this in the documentation. So all this information or these APIs, in the end, the result or the target of this is to connect our invoicing with ZATCA. What is the sections of the invoice? We have the profile as per the requirement, and we have the supplier party and customer party, and the invoice line and the tax information plus the payment information. Now, if I need to use any API, we can call it direct from the Postman based on the documentation and the technical documentation that which is already available in our platform, and you can read it, and I will show you now sample of these integration live, how you can use it, and it's very easy to use. So all what we can do as an IT company or developer or freelance, what we can provide you the services from the platform direct that you can connect to ZATCA server from our ecosystem, or if you need a support from our side to help you to integrate your ecosystem with ZATCA, or if you need to go pass of DBVAT and you need to link your system direct to ZATCA, all these options exist and available in our services. So let me show you now the API documentation that we can use it in order to make the things happen for you to integrate your system with ZATCA connection as IT and as a developer. I will not go through all these documents, but what I need to explain here that we have the index which explaining all the APIs one by one, how we can assign and what is the secret key and what is the body and what is the response. But in general, let me go for the introduction. To start, we need first to prepare the system. Means you are a company that having a software, you need to prepare your system. What you need to prepare? First, you need to go to update your customer information. Means if your customer information database in your system not missing one of these fields, you need to add it in your customer information as a fields, and you need to generate it in your customer master file. If one of these information not exist, you cannot integrate your system with ZATCA, because as I said, ZATCA, they have too much validation process which need to be done. The second thing, you need to update the information of the seller. In our example, balloon, this information is required, okay, to update the invoice. Whatever we are doing as a customer or seller, this information should be prepared in your database to send any electronic invoice direct to ZATCA. So in our case, if I am having an invoice, this is an invoice. So we have the customer information as a header, and we have the lines, and we have the finance, and we have the VAT, plus the owner of this software, he's using this. Once I click save, the system will generate the XML as I explained for all the information which is existing in our invoice to send it direct to an XML to DBVAT. Then the DBVAT will send it to ZATCA, and the response will get back to you. In this case, in simple, we are saying that DBVAT is a coordinator between all the softwares that need to integrate with ZATCA server through a simple tool that only you need to call the API and provide the XML structure to DBVAT, and the DBVAT will take care about all the concepts and the tools and the encryptions and the validation to ZATCA to give you back all the required parameter which is needed to be saved in your database to generate the QR and the other information. So in the XML format, as I said, it's a ready structure information. All this information exists in your system. This XML file, when you are generating the invoice, it will go direct to the API, which will take this information and validate it to send it to ZATCA server. Also, how it's work, when you register in DBVAT, you will register, you can use the API documentation and you can read it, which is available in the portal online. Then the system will generate the authentication key and the secret key for each client. Then you need to use the API as per the parameter and the definition of the API documentation is explaining every single part and every single transaction that you can call it. Only what you need from your software is to call the API, and you need to pass the parameter which is required, and each API have the structure of the client. So every single API exists in the documentation. You need only to pass the body with the required information, and the system of DBVAT will take care about all the things which is related. Remember one thing, that all these APIs, if there is no authentication key and the secret of this customer, he will not be able to communicate with ZATCA server. So I will leave this for you all, and all these, it's explained in Arabic and English for all the parameters, and also it's having the success results, and also it's having all the mistakes, which is happening. If you have any error, what is missing, it's giving you all the detail that required. So all this information is existing in our DBVAT. It's a long document because we have a full detailed documentation for every single API, and also explanation about every single field which is existing in the API and the structure which is required. And if you have any questions, I am ready to answer. You can go direct to dbvat.com and you can register to the platform. And if you need any help or any support, our team is available to support you anytime and to answer your questions and your inquiry. I will wait here for 5 minutes. If there is no any question, I am done with the presentation. Thank you, everybody, and I wish you all the best. You're welcome. Thank you, Bilal. Okay, gentlemen, if you need any help or support, you can reach us, okay? Because we have a more than workshop will be happening and will be attended through the next week. We have another 2 or 3 sessions in Arabic and English. Today in English, the next session will be in Arabic. So we will be available anytime to answer your question or your inquiries. And we will be with you all the time. And anyone he needs help to integrate his system with DBVAT or direct to ZATCA, we are here to support. Thank you, gentlemen, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.